Welcome to another episode of Nourishing Africa podcast. Today we have here Johnson Kiragu from Partners in Food Solutions discussing COVID-19 and sharing food safety in food processing.
My name is Johnson Kiragu, and I would like to welcome you to this podcast by Nourishing Africa in collaboration with Partners in Food Solutions. And the topic of this particular one will be ensuring food safety in food processing in Africa, specifically in view of the coronavirus pandemic. But first off, let me take a few minutes and introduce Partners in Food Solutions. Partners in Food Solutions, or PFS in short, is an independent non-profit organization that works to increase the growth and competitiveness of food companies in Africa and beyond. And this is aimed at improving access to safe, nutritious, and affordable food products with an overall improvement in economic development across food value chains. To achieve this, we connect volunteer experts from world-class food companies with the most promising food companies in the geographies where we work. And these volunteer experts would then provide pro bono consulting services. And this is made possible by Africa-based food experts who work directly for Partners in Food Solutions. So over the years, we've worked with upwards of 500 companies in these geographies. Now, turning to the pandemic that we're discussing today and its impacts on the food sector and food processing specifically. One of the things that has happened early enough with the discovery of the coronavirus and COVID-19 is that most of the supply chains have been disrupted. Most of the supply chains for both raw materials and packaging have been disrupted, and even supply downstream to the market of the finished products or processed food products have been disrupted. And it's become much harder to easily access raw materials for food processors due to lockdown measures and introduced by the government and the different regulators as a way of curbing the spread of the virus. And this is both within countries and even more pronounced when materials need to be transported across different borders. Countries have locked down their borders or closed their borders to contain whatever is in the country and prevent the ingress of the virus into their respective countries. Within the countries, movement of workers has been affected. So the social distance measures that different governments have introduced, would require that the number of persons that can be in public transport systems are reduced, and also the number of hours that public vehicles, for example, can operate have been reduced. Social distance measures again have affected the number of persons that can be in a processing facility, and that would in turn affect the volume of work, the production, the volume of production that can happen at the processing facility. Again, the introduction of curfews in different countries will then limit the number of working hours that the workers in the different facilities can put in the shifts or on a given day. Cost of production due to all this, the difficulty in movement of staff, difficulties in movement of raw materials isn't expected to go up, and we have started seeing that in some of the cases. There's also introduction of additional safety measures, the need for PPEs, for example, the need for people to frequently wash their hands, frequently have breaks, stagger the shifts, and all this. There would be an effect on the cost of production of products. So these are good measures which are aimed at ensuring the health and safety of the staff, health and safety of the entrepreneurs, and health and safety of the consumers and all the people who work in food value chains. But there is, some critical information or updates that the food processors and packaging companies and consumers need to keep a tab on, or keep abreast with. And one, if you look at the global trends, food processors need to keep a tab on what is happening globally, because we and food processors are operating in a global village. With the globalization and digitization, we work in a global village, and whatever happens in different parts of the world would then affect in one way or the other food processors, irrespective of where they operate in. So it's good for food processors to keep a tab on the trends of the pandemic in the different countries in the world. It's also more importantly to keep a tab of the trends in the regions where they're located. For example, in East African region, there is a lot of movement of materials between different countries, between, say, Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania and stuff like that. South Africa as well, West Africa as well. So it's always good to stay updated on what's happening in these regions where food processors operate in. It's also good to more importantly, keep a tab on what's happening in the different countries, in the specific countries. For example, the trends of the infections and the measures that the different governments are putting in place to curb the spread, any lockdown measures, and that the government is putting in place, which will affect the operations of the food processors and food packaging companies and consumers as well. They need to know exactly what is happening on a daily basis, and the different changes, the different measures that the government is putting in place to curb the spread of the virus. It's also good to keep a tab on the market prices. There is an expectation that as things shape out, then the prices of raw materials will change in one way or the other. It's not only increases. There are measures by the government, for example, to remove taxes on some of the materials and some of the inputs, including fuel and stuff like that. So it's good for companies to keep a tab on that and cost their operations appropriately. So by and large, knowing what's happening globally, what's happening regionally, and what's happening locally where food processors are operating would be of paramount importance. It's also very good, or very necessary, of absolute necessity, I would say, for food processors to employ safety measures in their production. And this would include taking precautions during entry into the processing facilities, making sure that the personnel understand that one, their safety is paramount, and two, the safety of the food products that they help in processing is paramount and is their responsibility. So as they get to their places of work, as they enter the premises, through as they go through public transport, there are precautions that have been put in place. Wearing masks and ensuring social distancing. All these will contribute towards the production of safe foods. Use of PPEs in processing, masks, as I've just mentioned, in gloves, any other PPEs, and overalls, and safety, any safety equipment which are provided. Hand washing requirements and training and provision of information on hand washing practices is of paramount importance as well. For food processors to make sure that the staff understand all this. I mentioned about social distancing and cleaning of PPEs is the other thing. So it's of paramount importance that the PPEs which are used on a daily basis are then cleaned to curb the spread of the virus. The other thing that employees need to also understand, and people in general working and staff working in food processing facilities, is that it would be absolutely necessary for them to take precautions when they re-enter, when they get back to their homes. It's important for them to change all the clothes that they had used during the day. It would be important for them to wash their hands, take a shower, make sure that the shoes that they have been using on the street and outside do not get into their homes, and all this will prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Food companies need to build trust with their customers during this period, and the different things that they can do to build this trust, and this would include leading by example. What are the practices by the staff? Are they wearing the PPEs? Are they keeping the social distances? Is there good communication? Food companies communicating appropriately with their customers, one, on the practices, and two, on anything that's changing. For example, if there is delay in any operation that would affect the delivery of products, it would be an act of trust if the companies kept their customers, be it the grocery stores or the distributors, informed as these things are changing, so that the market can then prepare appropriately. Sharing best practices, again, that will be a way of building a trust between the food processing companies and their customers. Other stakeholders as well need to take a few steps or several steps to ensure food safety and food security during this period of this period that we're going through the pandemic. Communities, there are numerous precautionary measures that have been communicated by the different authorities and the different stakeholders, to curb the spread of the virus. They should, communities and smallholder farmers should understand that they play a critical role in food supply chains, and without that supply of raw materials, then the food supply chains are broken. And so the precautionary measures are of absolute importance, by the community members of the community. They should share information. Members of the community should share information and take responsibility. It's about all of us doing what we're supposed to do to curb the spread. Customers need to be cautious. Again, all these precautions which are being issued, and all the advice that is coming from the authorities, washing hands, proper cooking of food, and taking precautions as they go out, taking precaution as they bring the products back into their homes. Although it's not been demonstrated that coronavirus is spread through food, but remember the packaging, the when you buy food stuff, then you touch on the packaging and stuff like that, and it's been shown that the virus remains on specific surfaces for a prolonged periods of time. So it's good to take all these precautions. Then African governments, I know they have a lot of governments have done a lot to sort of stem the spread of the virus. The health, to stem the health crisis, and I would say in a lot of areas this seem to be working. But as they have said, and the different authorities have rightfully said, it's not yet time to reduce the level of precautionary measures that are being implemented. But post this, there's definitely the need for a provision of safety nets, social safety nets. A lot of people have been affected in terms of job losses, and what we're seeing right now as time progresses, challenges in terms of access to foods. We expect this will continue expanding into larger groups as people stay for prolonged periods of time without means of livelihoods. Then these safety nets will become even more critical to the survival of the different persons and companies as well. The small and medium enterprises, small growing businesses are disproportionately negatively affected by this. So the economic stimulus programs which are being put in place, there must be frameworks and mechanisms that should ensure that the small and growing businesses in food processing are not disadvantaged, and that they will they'll be able to access some of these finances for the economic stimulus program. So to end it, I would say the pandemic is negatively affecting food processing, but it's important for all the precautionary measures to be taken to limit the spread. And food safety is paramount, is of paramount importance, and processors, distributors, customers, governments, each one of us, the development partners, has a role to play, and we are all in it to win it. Everybody is called upon to pull together to see all of us, on the other end of this pandemic. So let's keep hope alive, but let's do everything that you're supposed to do to curb the spread of coronavirus and beat it. Thank you.
There we've had it all from Johnson today. Thank you for joining us, dear listeners. Do join us next time. Bye-bye.